r/AITA my BIL demands I give my MacBook to his wife, so I exposed him. Give me the MacBook, or you're out by Friday. I stared at my brother-in-law Derek across the kitchen table, my brand new MacBook Pro sitting between us like evidence in a courtroom. The laptop I'd saved for 6 months to buy. The laptop I needed for my freelance development work. The laptop he wanted me to hand over to his wife Emma because apparently, family shares everything. Are you serious right now? I kept my voice steady, but my hands were shaking. This was my home too, well, sort of. I'd been living with my sister Jenna and Derek for 8 months, paying them $800 a month for the converted garage space, plus groceries, plus utilities. It wasn't exactly charity. Derek leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, wearing that smug expression that made me want to throw something. Dead serious. Emma needs a laptop for her online courses, and you're being selfish hoarding expensive tech when you barely contribute around here. Barely contribute? The words came out sharper than I intended. I pay rent. I buy groceries every week. I clean. You live in our garage and eat our food, Derek interrupted. The least you can do is help Emma get her life together. She's trying to start that photography business, remember? Right. The photography business. Like the jewelry business before that. And the essential oils thing before that. Emma collected abandoned projects like some people collected stamps, and somehow it was always someone else's fault when they failed. Usually mine, for not being supportive enough. Where's Jenna? I looked around the empty kitchen. My sister had a way of vanishing whenever Derek started one of his power trips. Getting groceries with Emma. They'll be back soon. Derek's smile was all teeth, no warmth. Look, kiddo, I know this seems unfair, but Emma's struggling. She's been depressed since the job thing didn't work out. You mean since she got fired for not showing up? That's not what happened. Derek's face darkened. She had anxiety issues. You wouldn't understand, you've never had to deal with real responsibility. I almost laughed. Real responsibility? I was 26, working 60-hour weeks to build my client base, trying to save enough to get my own place in a city where studios cost $2,000 a month. Meanwhile, Derek spent his days doing God knows what while Emma slept until noon and complained about her creative blocks. The MacBook stays with me, I said firmly. If Emma needs a laptop, she can get a used one. There are plenty for under $500. Derek's expression shifted, and for a second I saw something ugly flash across his face. You know, I'm really disappointed in you. After everything we've done for you. Giving you a place to live when you were struggling, treating you like family. The guilt trip. Classic Derek. He'd been pulling this manipulation since the day I moved in, making me feel like I owed him my firstborn for the privilege of paying market rate for a converted garage with no insulation and a space heater that barely worked. I appreciate you letting me rent the space, I said carefully. But that doesn't mean I have to give away my work equipment. Derek stood up, towering over me. At 6'3", he knew exactly how intimidating he could be. Friday, kiddo. MacBook or moving truck? Your choice. He walked out, leaving me alone with my laptop and a growing certainty that this was about way more than Emma's latest business venture. I sat there for 20 minutes after Derek left, staring at my MacBook and trying to process what had just happened. The kitchen felt different now, hostile in a way it never had before. Even the cheerful yellow walls Jenna had painted last spring seemed to mock me. My phone buzzed with a text from my biggest client, *K. Love the wireframes. Can we hop on a call tomorrow to discuss the database architecture? This could turn into a $15,000 project, $15,000. Nearly a year of rent payments to Derek. The irony wasn't lost on me, I was finally landing the kind of clients that could change my life, and now Derek wanted to sabotage it all for Emma's latest whim. I heard the front door slam and voices in the hallway. Jenna's laugh drifted toward the kitchen, bright and carefree. She had no idea what her husband had just threatened me with. Oh good, you're still here. Emma breezed into the kitchen carrying shopping bags, her blonde hair perfect despite the October wind outside. Derek told me the good news about the laptop. You're such a sweetheart for helping me out. My stomach dropped. He told you what? About letting me borrow your MacBook for my photography course. I'm starting next week. Emma's smile was radiant. Genuine. She actually believed Derek had already convinced me to hand it over. Jenna appeared behind her, arms full of groceries. What photography course? The one I told you about. Digital photography and photo editing. It's a 6-month certificate program. Emma started pulling items from the bags, expensive organic everything, the kind of groceries that made my $200 weekly contribution look pathetic. Derek said I could use your laptop, right? She looked at me expectantly, and I found myself trapped between her hopeful expression and Jenna's confused frown. Actually, we haven't figured out the details yet, I said weakly. Emma's face fell. Oh. Derek made it sound like it was all settled. What's going on? Jenna set down a bag of apples and looked between us. Derek said what exactly? Before I could answer, Derek himself walked in through the sliding door that led to the backyard. He must have been outside smoking, another habit Jenna thought he'd quit months ago. Just family helping family, Derek said smoothly, wrapping an arm around Emma's waist. Right, kiddo. The way he said it made my skin crawl. The fake warmth, the implied threat underneath. Jenna was standing right there, but she might as well have been invisible for all the protection she offered. I need my laptop for work, I said, looking directly at my sister. I just landed a huge client. That's wonderful. Jenna's face lit up. What kind of project? E-commerce platform for a startup. It could lead to a lot more work. See? Jenna turned to Derek. He needs it for his job. Emma, honey, maybe we could look into getting you a different laptop. There's that computer store downtown. Those are all garbage, Derek interrupted. Emma needs something professional if she's serious about her photography. Besides, how much work can he really be doing in the garage? The dismissal in his voice was like a slap. 8 months of proving myself, of exceeding every expectation, of being the perfect tenant and brother-in-law, and he still saw me as some kind of freeloader. More than you'd think, I said quietly. Derek's eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? The kitchen went silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. Emma looked uncomfortable, Jenna looked confused, and Derek looked like he wanted to murder me. I was about to find out exactly how far he'd go to get what he wanted. Nothing, I said, backing down. I just meant I work more hours than people realize. But Derek wasn't letting it go. He stepped closer, his jaw tight. No, you said something. What exactly are you implying about my work situation? Derek, please. Emma touched his arm. Let's not fight about this. Maybe I can find a different laptop. No. His voice cut through the kitchen like a blade. I'm tired of being disrespected in my own house. First he won't help family, now he's making snide comments about my career. Jenna frowned. What career? I thought you were between jobs right now. The silence that followed was deafening. I watched Derek's face cycle through emotions, surprise, anger, calculation. Emma suddenly became very interested in unpacking groceries. I'm pursuing consulting opportunities, Derek said finally. It's not like I'm sitting around doing nothing. Of course not, honey. But I caught the uncertainty in Jenna's voice. She'd started noticing things too. My phone buzzed again. Another text from a potential client asking about my availability. The contrast was stark. My business was finally taking off while Derek spent his days doing mysterious consulting that never seemed to involve actual clients or income. You know what? I stood up, clutching my MacBook. I'm going to get back to work. Emma, I'm sorry, but I really do need this for my projects. That's fine, Emma said quickly, avoiding eye contact. I understand. But Derek moved to block my path to the garage door. We're not done talking about this. Yes, we are. I tried to step around him. Derek. Jenna's voice carried a warning. Let him go to work. For a moment, I thought he might actually try to physically stop me. His hands clenched and unclenched at his sides, and I could see the rage simmering just beneath his controlled exterior. Then Emma's phone rang, breaking the tension. She glanced at the screen and her face went pale. Who is it? Derek asked sharply. Nobody. Spam call. But her voice shook as she declined it. Derek's attention snapped to his wife. Emma. It's nothing, I swear. The phone immediately started ringing again. Same number. Emma's hands trembled as she tried to silence it. Answer it, Derek commanded. Derek, please. Answer the damn phone. Jenna and I exchanged glances. This was a side of Derek I'd suspected but never seen so clearly. The control, the barely contained aggression. Emma reluctantly swiped to answer, putting it on speaker with shaky fingers. Mrs. Patterson. This is David Chen from Coastal Credit Services. We've been trying to reach your husband regarding his account. The payment was due last weekend. Derek lunged for the phone, ending the call so violently he nearly knocked it from Emma's hands. Debt collectors. Jenna's voice was small. Derek, what account? It's a mistake. Wrong number. But Emma's face told a different story. She looked like she might throw up. How much? Jenna asked quietly. Jenna, don't listen to them. These scam companies. How much, Derek? The kitchen fell silent again. Outside, I could hear kids playing in the neighbor's yard, the sound of normal life continuing while ours imploded. Derek's phone started buzzing. Then mine. Then the house phone that nobody ever called. Jesus Christ, Derek muttered, pulling out his cell. The screen showed 3 missed calls and 2 voicemails. This is harassment. But I was watching Emma, and the tears starting to slide down her cheeks told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't about my MacBook at all. This was about money Derek didn't have, debts he'd been hiding, and a desperate man willing to steal from family to keep his secrets buried. The phones kept ringing for the next 10 minutes. Derek had turned his off completely, but mine buzzed with unknown numbers, and the landline was relentless. Each ring made Emma flinch like she'd been slapped. Make it stop, she whispered. They'll get tired eventually, Derek said, but his voice had lost all its earlier confidence. He kept pacing between the kitchen island and the window, checking the street like he expected repo men to come storming up the driveway. Jenna stood frozen by the sink, still holding a bag of groceries. Derek, I need you to tell me what's happening. Right now. It's complicated. Uncomplicated. I stayed quiet, clutching my MacBook and trying to process what I'd just witnessed. The debt collectors, Emma's terror, Derek's desperation to get his hands on something valuable, my laptop suddenly made perfect sense as a target. There might be some credit issues, Derek admitted finally. Nothing we can't handle. Credit issues? Jenna set down the groceries with deliberate care. What kind of credit issues result in debt collectors calling our house phone? How did they even get that number? Emma spoke up for the first time, her voice barely above a whisper. They've been calling for weeks. The betrayal on Jenna's face was devastating to watch. Weeks? And nobody thought to mention this to me. I wanted to handle it myself, Derek said. It's my responsibility. We're married. Your responsibilities are our responsibilities. Jenna's voice cracked. How much do we owe? Derek's silence stretched until it became suffocating. Outside, the neighbors' kids were still playing, their laughter a jarring contrast to the funeral atmosphere in our kitchen. Derek. How much? The exact amount doesn't matter. What matters is solving the problem. I felt sick. This was why he threatened me. This was why he needed my MacBook, not for Emma's photography course, but to sell it. A brand new MacBook Pro could easily bring in $2,000 on the resale market. Maybe more. I can help, I found myself saying. Everyone turned to look at me. I mean, I might be able to help figure out the situation. I work with budgets and financial planning for my clients sometimes. Derek's laugh was bitter. Thanks, kiddo, but this isn't a coding problem. Actually, it might be exactly that kind of problem, I said carefully. If you're dealing with multiple creditors, there are ways to organize payment plans, consolidate debt. We don't need your help. But Jenna was already nodding. Yes, we do. Clearly Derek and I need help because I had no idea any of this was happening. She turned back to her husband. Start talking. Everything. Derek ran his hands through his hair, and for the first time since I'd known him, he looked genuinely defeated. It started small. Just some credit cards to help with expenses when I was between jobs. Which expenses? Regular stuff. Groceries, utilities, gas. My stomach dropped. I'd been faithfully handing over money for groceries and utilities for 8 months, thinking I was contributing to household expenses. But if Derek was putting those on credit cards, what about the money I give you every month? I asked. Derek's face went red. That goes toward your rent. But you just said you were using credit cards for utilities and groceries. So where does my money actually go? Jenna was staring at her husband with growing horror. Derek, you told me his payments covered the utilities and most of the groceries. That's why I thought we were doing so well financially. The pieces clicked together in my head like a horrifying puzzle. Derek had been taking my $800 rent payment plus my grocery contributions, then putting the actual household expenses on credit cards. Essentially double-dipping while letting debt pile up in the background. You've been stealing from me, I said quietly. And from Jenna. It's not stealing. It's more like borrowing. Borrowing implies you intended to pay it back. Emma started crying harder, and I realized she'd known. Maybe not all the details, but she'd known Derek was lying to Jenna and me about where the money was going. The house phone rang again, shrill and accusatory. This time, nobody moved to answer it. The phone finally stopped ringing, leaving us in a silence so thick I could hear my own heartbeat. Derek was still pacing, but his movements had become erratic, desperate. Emma had sunk into one of the kitchen chairs, her face buried in her hands. How long have you known? Jenna asked Emma, her voice deadly calm. I didn't know about the debt collectors, Emma said through her fingers. I swear I didn't know it had gotten that bad. But you knew about the credit cards. Emma's silence was answer enough. I felt like I was watching my sister's marriage disintegrate in real time. 8 months of living here, of thinking I understood the family dynamic, and I'd been completely blind to what was really happening. The photography course, I said suddenly. How much does it cost? Emma looked up, mascara streaked down her cheeks. What? The certificate program. How much? Derek stopped pacing. That's not relevant. Everything's relevant now, Jenna said sharply. Emma, how much? $3,000. My blood ran cold. 3,000. And you wanted my MacBook so Emma could take a course that costs more than a laptop is worth? The course includes equipment, Derek said defensively. Professional cameras, editing software. Derek. Jenna's voice cut through his excuses. We can't afford groceries according to these debt collectors, and you want to spend $3,000 on another one of Emma's projects. It's not just a project. Emma has real talent. So did she when she wanted to be a jewelry designer. And a life coach. And a social media consultant. Jenna's composure was cracking. How much money have we spent on Emma's talents over the past 2 years? Emma stood up abruptly, knocking over her chair. I'm trying to find myself. I'm trying to contribute to this household. By taking courses that cost thousands of dollars we don't have. By building skills. By becoming someone worthwhile. The raw pain in Emma's voice surprised me. Underneath all the failed business ventures and expensive hobbies, she genuinely believed she was worthless without them. Emma, you don't need to prove, I started. Don't. Derek pointed at me, his face flushed with anger. You don't get to play therapist here. This is family business. I am family, I said, something hardening in my chest. I live here. I pay rent here. I contribute to this household more than you do, apparently. You live in a garage and write code. Don't pretend you understand real adult relationships. That did it. 8 months of condescension, of being made to feel grateful for the privilege of paying market rate for substandard housing, of watching Derek treat everyone around him like props in his personal drama. You want to talk about adult relationships? I stood up, MacBook clutched against my chest. Adults don't hide debt from their spouses. Adults don't steal rent money. And adults definitely don't threaten to make family members homeless over a laptop they want to sell for quick cash. I never said anything about selling. Then what was the plan, Derek? Emma takes one photography course and suddenly she's making enough money to pay off your credit cards. Or were you hoping I wouldn't notice when my laptop mysteriously disappeared after you kicked me out? Jenna was staring at her husband like she'd never seen him before. You were going to sell his laptop. I never said that. But his denial came too late and sounded too rehearsed. Even Emma was looking at him with new understanding, horror dawning on her face. Oh my God, Emma whispered. The jewelry. My grandmother's necklace. You said it was being cleaned. Derek went very still. Where's my necklace, Derek? The kitchen felt like it was shrinking around us. I could see the exact moment Jenna realized that the financial betrayal went deeper than credit cards and rent money. Tell me you didn't, Jenna said quietly. It was temporary. I was going to get it back. Emma let out a sound that was half sob, half scream. The revelation about Emma's grandmother's necklace hit the kitchen like a bomb. Emma was hyperventilating now, her hands pressed against her chest as she struggled to breathe. Jenna moved toward her, but Emma backed away. Don't touch me. Don't, how could you let this happen? Emma's accusation was directed at Jenna, not Derek, which made it somehow worse. I didn't know, Jenna said helplessly. Emma, I swear I had no idea he was. You live here. You're married to him. How do you not know your husband is stealing from everyone? Derek stepped between them. Emma, calm down. I can fix this. Fix it. My grandmother's necklace is gone. The only thing I had left of her, and you pawned it like it was trash. I felt like an intruder witnessing this family implosion, but I couldn't leave. My laptop was still the catalyst for all of this, and Derek's earlier threat hung over everything. Besides, where could I go? This was my home too, for better or worse. What else? Jenna's voice was eerily controlled now. What else have you sold, Derek? Nothing else. Just the necklace, and only temporarily. My camera, Emma interrupted, her voice hollow with realization. The Canon you bought me for Christmas. You said you were getting it serviced. Derek's silence confirmed what we all suspected. Jesus Christ. Jenna sank into a chair. How much debt are we talking about? Total. It's manageable if we... Numbers, Derek. I want actual numbers. Derek pulled out his phone, hands shaking as he scrolled through what I assumed were banking apps. The silence stretched while he calculated, and I found myself holding my breath. Around 47,000. Emma made a choking sound. Jenna went completely white. $47,000. Jenna's voice was barely a whisper. On what? How is that even possible? Some of it's the cards, some is personal loans, and there's the car payment I've been missing. Car payment? Derek, we paid off the Honda 2 years ago. Not the Honda. The BMW. I blinked in confusion. What BMW? Derek's face went through several color changes. I bought it for work meetings. Image is important when you're consulting. Show me. Jenna stood up. Right now. Show me this BMW. It's not here. I park it at the office complex downtown so it doesn't get damaged. You don't have an office downtown. Jenna's composure finally cracked completely. You don't have consulting clients. You spend your days at the casino. The accusation hung in the air like smoke. Derek's face went from red to gray in seconds. That's not, Jenna, you're upset and you're not thinking clearly. Am I? Because suddenly a lot of things make sense. The weird hours, the secrecy about your phone, the way you disappear for entire afternoons. Jenna turned to me. Did you know about this? I had suspicions, I admitted. But I didn't know about the gambling specifically. What suspicions? Derek demanded. I hesitated, then figured we were already past the point of protecting anyone's feelings. You're home all day but you never want to talk about work. You get defensive when anyone asks about your consulting. And you always smell like cigarettes even though you supposedly quit, but casinos still allow smoking. That's circumstantial bullshit. Is it? Jenna pulled out her own phone. Because I can check our bank statements right now. I can see exactly where our money's been going. Derek lunged for her phone. Jenna, don't. But she was already scrolling, her face growing paler with each swipe. Cash advances. Dozens of them. All from that ATM at Thunder Valley Casino. The kitchen fell silent except for Emma's ragged breathing and the distant sound of those kids still playing outside in a normal, functional family. Derek had been caught, completely and utterly. And I realized that my MacBook wasn't just about quick cash anymore, it was about a desperate man watching his entire life collapse in real time. The evidence was right there on Jenna's phone screen, impossible to deny. Derek made one last desperate attempt to grab it, but Jenna stepped back, her eyes never leaving the transaction history. 47 transactions in the past 3 months, she read aloud, her voice mechanical. All cash advances. All from the same casino ATM. She looked up at her husband with something that might have been discussed. The smallest one is $300. The largest is $2,000. Derek's shoulders sagged in defeat. Jenna, I can explain. Can you explain why you told me you were networking at business lunches while you were actually gambling away our rent money? Can you explain why you let me stress about our budget while you knew exactly where every penny was going? Emma had gone completely silent, which somehow felt more ominous than her earlier breakdown. She was staring at Derek with an expression I couldn't read. The photography course, Emma said suddenly. You never intended to pay for it, did you? You wanted his laptop because you were planning to sell it and gamble with that money too. Emma, no. Don't lie to me anymore. Her voice cracked like a whip. Just this once, tell me the truth. Were you going to sell the MacBook? Derek looked around the kitchen like he was searching for an escape route. When he realized there wasn't one, his entire demeanor shifted. The manipulative charm disappeared, replaced by something uglier. Fine. Yes. I was going to sell it. But only because I have a system that works, and I just needed enough capital to make it pay off. The delusion in his voice was staggering. Jenna actually laughed, but it was a broken sound. A system that works. Derek, you've lost $47,000. Those were learning experiences. I know what I'm doing now. Stop. I couldn't listen to any more of this. Just stop talking. You don't have a system. You're not a misunderstood genius. You're an addict who was willing to steal from your family to feed your addiction. Derek's mask slipped completely then, revealing the rage underneath. You sanctimonious little shit. You think you're so much better than me because you write code and pay your bills. You live in a garage. You're 26 years old with no real relationships, no real life. At least I'm not a thief. I'm not a thief. This is my house, my family. Everything here belongs to me, including... Including what? Jenna's voice was dangerously quiet. Including me. Including Emma. Including his laptop. The possessiveness in Derek's rant had revealed more than he'd intended. I saw Jenna and Emma exchange a look, and something passed between them, recognition, maybe, of just how deep Derek's control issues ran. I didn't mean it like that, Derek backpedaled frantically. I just meant that we're family, we should support each other. Support goes both ways, I said. What exactly have you contributed to this household besides debt and lies? I provide emotional support. I keep this family together. Emma's bitter laugh cut him off. Emotional support. Derek, you made me feel like garbage for months because I couldn't find work. You convinced me I was useless, that I needed to prove my worth with these expensive courses. And the whole time, you were stealing from your own wife. That's not, you're twisting everything around. But Emma was just getting started. How long have you been gambling? Before we got married? Derek's hesitation was answer enough. Oh my God, Jenna breathed. The engagement ring. You said you got a deal on it from a friend in the jewelry business. I did get a deal. Because it was stolen, wasn't it? Or bought with dirty money. The kitchen felt like it was closing in on all of us. Derek's web of lies was unraveling so fast I could barely keep track of the revelations. And I was starting to realize that my MacBook problem was about to become the least of my worries. My phone started buzzing again, the client I'd been texting with earlier. I glanced at the screen and felt my stomach drop. Shit, I muttered. What now? Jenna asked, looking like she couldn't handle one more crisis. My client. The $15,000 project. He's calling for our scheduled consultation and I gestured helplessly at the chaos around us. I can't exactly take this call right now. Derek's head snapped up, and I saw something calculating flash across his face. 15,000. For one project. Don't even think about it, I warned, but I could practically see the wheels turning in his head. The call went to voicemail. Then immediately started ringing again. You have to answer, Emma said urgently. That's too much money to lose. She was right, but how could I have a professional conversation about database architecture while my family imploded around me? Still, I couldn't afford to lose this client, especially not now, when I might need to find a new place to live by Friday. Give me 5 minutes, I said, heading toward the garage door. Just, try not to burn the house down while I'm gone. But Derek stepped in front of me again. Where do you think you're going with that laptop? To take a work call. You know, actual work. The kind that pays money instead of losing it. After what just happened, you think I'm letting you walk out of here with $2,000 worth of equipment? The audacity was breathtaking. It's not your equipment. Everything in this house is collateral now, Derek said, and there was something desperate and dangerous in his voice. 47,000 in debt doesn't just disappear. We need liquid assets. Jenna grabbed his arm. Derek, you cannot be serious right now. Dead serious. That laptop could cover rent for 2 months while I figure out a payment plan. Or you could gamble it away in 2 hours, Emma said bitterly. My phone rang a third time. The client was persistent, which usually would have been great news. Now it felt like pressure I couldn't handle. I'm taking this call, I said firmly. In private. Without you breathing down my neck about selling my equipment. But when I tried to push past Derek, he grabbed my arm. Not gently. Let go of me, I said quietly. Not until we figure this out. Jenna was staring at her husband's hand on my arm like she'd never seen him before. Derek, you're hurting him. I'm protecting our interests. By assaulting your brother-in-law. The word assault seemed to snap Derek back to reality. He released my arm, but didn't move away from the door. Look, we're all stressed, he said, trying to reclaim his earlier manipulative charm. Let's just sit down and work out a solution that helps everyone. The solution is simple, I said, rubbing my arm where he grabbed it. You get help for your gambling addiction. You find a real job. You stop trying to steal from family members. And in the meantime, while I'm getting my life together, we all just pretend we don't have bills to pay. The bills are your problem, not mine. Derek's face darkened. They became everyone's problem the moment you decided to live here. I pay rent. You pay what I tell you to pay. And frankly, it's not enough anymore. There it was. The real threat. Not just losing my laptop, but losing my housing entirely unless I started subsidizing his gambling addiction. My phone rang again. Fourth call. If I didn't answer soon, I'd lose the client for sure. I need 15 minutes, I said desperately. 15 minutes to save my business relationship. Then we can figure out whatever insane payment plan you want to discuss. Derek smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Sure. Take your call. But the laptop stays here. What? You can use the house phone. Old school style. The manipulation was so blatant, so controlling, that I felt something snap inside my chest. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about Derek's need to dominate everyone around him, to reduce us all to resources he could exploit. And I realized I was done being exploited. I stared at Derek, my phone buzzing insistently in my hand, and felt something shift inside me. 8 months of walking on eggshells, of being grateful for scraps, of letting him make me feel small, it all crystallized into a moment of perfect clarity. No, I said simply. Derek blinked. Excuse me. I said no. I'm keeping my laptop, I'm taking my call, and you're going to get out of my way. The hell I am. But this time when he moved to block me, I was ready. I pulled out my phone and started recording. For the record, I said clearly, it's October 15th, approximately 3:30 p.m. Derek Patterson is physically preventing me from leaving the kitchen with my personal property, a MacBook Pro I purchased with my own money. He's demanding I turn it over to him because he owes $47,000 to various creditors due to his gambling addiction. Turn that off, Derek snarled, reaching for my phone. Derek, stop. Jenna moved between us. What are you doing? He's documenting threats and intimidation, I said, keeping the camera steady. Which is smart, since I'm apparently living with someone who thinks he owns me and everything I possess. Emma was watching this unfold with wide eyes. Derek, maybe you should just let him take his call. Shut up, Emma. The venom in his voice made her flinch, and I saw Jenna's expression harden further. Don't talk to her like that, Jenna warned. I'll talk to my wife however I want. This is my house, my rules. Your house. Jenna's voice rose. Derek, my name is on the mortgage too. And last I checked, I'm the only one with an actual income right now. That hit home. Derek's face went red, and I could see the rage building behind his eyes. He was losing control of the narrative, losing his grip on the people he'd been manipulating for months. You want to see rules? Derek pulled out his own phone. Fine. Let me call my buddy Rick who works in property management. See how quickly I can start eviction proceedings on a month-to-month tenant who's behind on rent. I'm not behind on rent. You will be when I raise it to $1,500 a month, effective immediately. Jenna gasped. You can't do that. Watch me. Maybe then our little software genius will understand what real financial pressure looks like. My phone had finally stopped ringing, but now it buzzed with a text, *Hey, having trouble reaching you. Is everything okay? Really excited to discuss this project. Call me back ASAP, $15,000 slipping through my fingers while Derek played power games. You know what? I said, pocketing my phone and looking directly into Derek's eyes. I think it's time Jenna knew about your afternoon trips to Thunder Valley. All of them. Derek went very still. What's that supposed to mean? I work from home, remember? I see when you leave, when you come back. I hear your phone calls when you think no one's listening. I glanced at Jenna, then back to Derek. Want me to tell her about Tuesday afternoon? The one where you came home crying. The color drained from Derek's face. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? Big loss that day, wasn't it? That's when you decided you needed my laptop. That's when this whole plan started forming. What happened Tuesday? Jenna demanded. Derek's silence spoke volumes. I could see him calculating, trying to figure out how much I actually knew versus how much I was guessing. Tell her about the phone call to your bookie, I pressed. The one where you were begging for more time. I don't have a bookie. Then tell her about the loan shark who showed up at the house last week when she was at work. Emma made a small, frightened sound. Derek looked like he might throw up. And I realized I just declared war on a desperate man with nothing left to lose. The mention of the loan shark hit Derek like a physical blow. His face went from red to ashen, and I watched him glance frantically toward the front windows like he expected someone to be watching the house. There's no loan shark, he said, but his voice cracked on the words. Really? Because I have a pretty clear memory of you talking to someone named Vince through the front door. Something about interest rates and consequences. I kept my voice steady, but my heart was pounding. Should I tell Jenna about the part where you promised him you'd have money by the end of the week? Emma let out a strangled sob. Derek, you said those men were selling solar panels. They were. Solar panels don't charge 20% weekly interest, I cut him off. And they definitely don't break kneecaps when you default. Jenna grabbed the counter for support. Loan sharks. Derek, are you completely insane? Do you have any idea what you brought into our home? It's not like that, Derek said desperately. Vince is a legitimate businessman. He provides short-term financing for people with credit challenges. He's a criminal. Jenna's voice cracked with hysteria. And you gave him our address. The reality of the situation was sinking in for all of us. This wasn't just about hidden debt anymore, Derek had put everyone in actual physical danger. How much do you owe him? I asked quietly. Derek's silence stretched until Emma couldn't take it anymore. How much, Derek? 12,000. But I have until Friday to. Friday? I felt sick. That's why you threatened to kick me out by Friday. You were planning to sell my laptop and use the money for your loan shark. It would have solved everything temporarily. Temporarily? Jenna looked like she might collapse. Derek, $12,000 in 1 week, where exactly did you think we'd get that kind of money? I had a system. A sure thing at the blackjack tables. But I needed seed money to make it work. The delusion was staggering. Even facing potential violence from loan sharks, Derek still believed his gambling could save him. Makes his risk assessment more accurate. Emma was hyperventilating again. Derek, how could you? He's family. Family helps family, Derek shot back. But apparently that's a one-way street in this house. Jenna looked like she was watching a stranger. You put my brother in danger. You made him a target for criminals. I gave Vince information about our household income. Standard practice for private lending. The casual way he said it made my stomach turn. Like discussing my wages with a criminal was just another business transaction. What exactly did you tell him about me? I demanded. Derek shrugged. That you're a software developer pulling in decent money. That you live here permanently. That you're invested in keeping the household stable. Each word felt like a nail in my coffin. Vince didn't just know I existed, he knew I had money and a reason to pay up if Derek couldn't. Jesus Christ, Derek. Jenna sank into a chair. Do you understand what you've done? You've made him an accessory to your debt. That's not how it works. That's exactly how it works. I pulled up news articles on my phone with shaking fingers. Loan sharks go after anyone connected to the borrower. Family members, roommates, business partners. They don't care whose name is on the original loan. The kitchen fell silent except for Emma's ragged breathing. Outside, those neighbor kids were still playing, their voices a cruel reminder of normal life just yards away from a crisis. My client texted again, * last attempt to reach you today. We'll need to move forward with backup developer if I don't hear back soon, *. $15,000. Enough to help with Derek's debt, or enough to get me far away from this mess. But taking the call meant leaving Jenna alone with a man who was becoming more unstable by the minute. I need 5 minutes, I said finally. I'm taking this call in the garage, and then we're figuring out how to fix this before Friday. There's nothing to fix, Derek said bitterly. I owe money I don't have to people who don't negotiate payment plans. Then we call the police. Derek's laugh was harsh. And tell them what? That I borrowed money from someone who charges high interest. That's not illegal, kiddo. Inconvenient, maybe, but not illegal. He was right, and we all knew it. Until Vince actually threatened or hurt someone, he was just an unlicensed lender operating in a legal gray area. There has to be something, Jenna started. There is, Derek interrupted. $12,000 by Friday. That's the only something that matters. My phone rang again. The client, not giving up. I had to make a choice, answer and risk missing whatever happened next in the kitchen, or let it go to voicemail and lose the biggest opportunity of my career. Answer it, Emma said quietly. We need all the money we can get right now. She was right, but something in her tone made me pause. There was a resignation there, like she'd already accepted that we were all going down with Derek's ship. I looked around the kitchen, at Jenna's devastated face, Emma's tears, Derek's desperate rage, and realized that taking this call might be my last act as a free man. Because after Friday, none of us might be safe. I answered the call, stepping into the garage while keeping the kitchen door cracked open so I could monitor the situation. Hi Marcus, sorry for the delay. Family emergency, but I'm ready to discuss the project now. Marcus dove right into the technical requirements, but I found myself only half listening. Through the door crack, I could hear Derek's voice rising again, something about liquidating assets. My blood ran cold when I heard him mention my car. So we're looking at a 3-month timeline for full deployment, Marcus was saying. Does that work with your schedule? Absolutely, I managed, watching Derek gesture aggressively at Jenna. Can I ask about payment structure? Standard terms. 5,000 up front, 5 at midpoint, 5 at completion. I can have the initial payment process today if you're ready to move forward. $5,000. A third of what Derek owed Vince, landing in my account within hours. The irony wasn't lost on me. That sounds perfect. I'll send over the contract. A crash from the kitchen cut me off. Through the door, I saw Derek sweep a stack of dishes off the counter, porcelain exploding across the floor. Marcus, I need to call you back in 10 minutes. Something urgent just came up. Everything okay? We'll be soon. I'll call you right back. I hung up and rushed into the kitchen to find Jenna backing away from Derek, her hands raised defensively. Emma was pressed against the far wall, looking terrified. What happened? He lost it when I said I was calling my parents for money, Jenna said, her voice shaking. Said if I involved them, he'd make sure they knew about your arrangement too. What arrangement? But even as I asked, I could guess. Derek's smile was venomous. How you've been paying below market rent in exchange for certain favors. How you've been taking advantage of our hospitality. That's insane. I pay fair market rate and you know it. Not according to the story I'll tell. Young man living with married couple, paying suspiciously low rent, spending a lot of time alone with the wife while the husband's at work. The implications hit me like a physical blow. Derek was threatening to destroy my reputation, Jenna's marriage to her parents' eyes, and probably Emma's sense of reality all in one move. You're sick, Jenna whispered. I'm practical. Everyone keeps their mouth shut, we figure this out as a family. Or everyone goes down together. Derek crunched across the broken dishes. Your choice. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, asterisk Derek owes more than he told you. Interest compounds daily. Time is running out for everyone in that house. The asterisk. The message felt like ice water in my veins. Vince was monitoring the situation, possibly watching the house. Definitely tracking Derek's debt in real time. Derek, I said carefully, showing him the text. How much is the daily interest on 12,000? His face went gray as he read the message. That's impossible. He doesn't have your number. But we both knew it wasn't impossible. Loan sharks didn't stay in business by being bad at gathering information. How much daily interest? I repeated. 2%, Derek whispered. 2% daily on 12,000 was $240. Every day Derek delayed meant the debt grew larger, the danger increased. Emma made a choking sound. That means by Friday we'll owe. I did the math quickly. Almost 13,000. Assuming he started counting interest from today. Derek slumped against the counter, finally understanding that his deadline wasn't just approaching, it was accelerating beyond his control. And Vince clearly had all of our phone numbers now. The silence that followed my math calculation was deafening. $13,000 by Friday, and that was assuming Vince wasn't charging compound interest or adding fees. My phone buzzed again. Asterisk smart kid. Derek forgot to mention the late fees, didn't he? The asterisk. I showed the screen to Derek, whose face had gone from gray to green. What late fees? There's a penalty structure for missed payments, Derek stammered. How much? 500 per day after the deadline. Emma let out a strangled laugh that bordered on hysteria. So we're looking at 14,000 by Friday, and if we don't pay, it becomes 14,500 on Saturday, 15,000 on Sunday. It's not going to come to that, Derek said desperately. I have a plan. Jenna wiped tears from her face, smearing her mascara. Another plan? Like the one where you steal my brother's laptop. Or the one where you destroy our family's reputation. My client was probably wondering where I disappeared to again. $15,000 in legitimate work, sitting there waiting for my call, while we scrambled to find money for Derek's criminal debts. The contrast felt surreal. I need to finish my call, I said. This contract could help with the situation. How much help? Derek's desperation was palpable. 5,000 up front. But I need 30 minutes to finalize details and get the payment started. Derek grabbed my arm again, but gentler this time. You'd use your money to help us? The question hung in the air. 5,000 was a significant chunk of Vince's payment, but it wouldn't solve everything. And it would mean using my emergency fund, money I'd been saving to escape this exact situation. I'd use it to help Jenna and Emma, I said carefully. This is their home too. Derek's face darkened. But not to help me. You created this mess. But I'm not going to let everyone else suffer for your choices. Another text came through, this one to all of us simultaneously, asterisk family meeting tomorrow at 2 p.m. Everyone who lives at that address needs to be present. Bring documentation of all income sources. The asterisk. Emma started crying again. He's coming here. To our house. It's just a meeting, Derek said weakly. Businessmen have meetings. Loan sharks have collections, I corrected. And now he wants to see everyone's financials. The reality was sinking in for all of us. Vince wasn't just interested in Derek's ability to pay, he was evaluating the entire household as potential assets. My software development income, Jenna's salary, even Emma's unemployment benefits. Everything was now part of his calculation. We could leave, Emma whispered. Just pack up and go. Derek shook his head violently. You don't understand how this works. Vince has connections everywhere. Running just makes it worse. Worse how? Because then it becomes about more than money. It becomes about respect. The kitchen felt like it was closing in on us. Through the window, I could see a dark sedan that hadn't been there earlier, parked across the street with tinted windows. It could have been anyone, a neighbor, a delivery driver, someone visiting the house next door. But my paranoia was running high. Is that him? I nodded toward the window. Derek followed my gaze and his remaining color drained away. Maybe. He said he might do a drive-by to assess the property. Assess it for what? Collateral value. The word hit me like a slap. Our home, Jenna's home, was being evaluated like inventory in a bankruptcy sale. And tomorrow at 2 p.m., we'd all be sitting across from a man who viewed us as nothing more than sources of income to feed Derek's debt. My phone rang again. Marcus, still waiting for our conversation to continue. But now I had to decide, take the money and run, or stay and fight for what was left of this family. The sedan's engine started, and it slowly pulled away from the curb. Time was running out for all of us. I stared at my phone, Marcus's name flashing on the screen for the 4th time. $5,000 waiting for me to simply say yes, while we all stood in a kitchen full of broken dishes and broken promises. Answer it, Jenna said quietly. We need that money. But as I swiped to accept the call, Derek's phone started buzzing. He glanced at the screen and his face went white. It's Vince. The kitchen fell silent except for the insistent ringing. Derek's hand shook as he held the phone, clearly terrified to answer but more terrified not to. Put it on speaker, I said, ending my call with Marcus again. We all need to hear this. Derek's finger hovered over the screen. That's not a good idea. Nothing about this situation is good, Jenna snapped. Answer the damn phone. Derek reluctantly hit speaker just as the call was about to go to voicemail. Derek. Vince's voice was calm, almost friendly. That somehow made it worse. I trust you got my messages. Yeah, we're working on the situation. Good. I wanted to clarify something before tomorrow's meeting. See, I've been doing some research on your household, and I discovered some interesting discrepancies. My blood ran cold. What kind of research? I don't understand, Derek stammered. Your brother-in-law there. The software developer. According to my sources, he's been significantly underreporting his income to you. That $5,000 project he just scored. That's apparently small potatoes compared to his usual rates. I felt everyone's eyes turn to me. How the hell did Vince know about Marcus's project? I'd literally just gotten off the phone. I don't know what you're talking about, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Sure you do, kid. See, I make it my business to know exactly what everyone's worth. Your LinkedIn profile is very impressive. Client testimonials talking about 6-figure projects. Really makes a guy wonder why you're living in a garage and crying poverty. The accusation hung in the air. Emma was staring at me with growing suspicion, and even Jenna looked confused. Is that true? Jenna asked quietly. It's complicated. No, it's simple, Vince interrupted through the speaker. Either the kid's been lying to you about his income, or he's lying to his clients about his capabilities. Either way, someone's been dishonest. Derek found his voice again, and I could see the wheels turning in his head. You said 6-figure projects. Conservative estimate. Kids got skills, and skills pay well in the tech world. Vince's tone remained conversational. Makes me think tomorrow's meeting is going to be very productive. The line went dead, leaving us in crushing silence. Derek turned to me slowly, his expression shifting from desperation to something uglier. 6 figures. You've been holding out on us while we're drowning in debt. It's not that simple. Did you or did you not lie about how much money you make? Emma demanded. I felt trapped. Yes, I downplayed my income, but for good reason. I'd seen how Derek operated, how he viewed other people's money as his own personal emergency fund. I never lied about anything, I said carefully. I told you what I charge for basic projects. The bigger contracts are rare. How rare? Jenna's voice was cold. Rare enough that I can't count on them for regular expenses. But Derek was already pulling out his phone, fingers flying across the screen. Let me see, your company website, client testimonials. His eyes widened. Holy shit. Emma, look at this. Emma peered over his shoulder, and I watched her face change as she read. 50,000 for database optimization. 30,000 for mobile app development. She looked at me like I was a stranger. What the hell have you been playing at? The irony was crushing. Derek had been lying about everything, his job, his gambling, his debts, but somehow I was the villain for not advertising my income potential. You want to know the truth? I said, anger finally overriding my caution. I downplayed what I make because I knew this would happen. I knew Derek would see it as his personal bailout fund. Family helps family, Derek said, but there was triumph in his voice now. Family doesn't steal from family. And family doesn't put loan sharks on each other. But the damage was done. In Vince's eyes, I wasn't just a tenant anymore, I was a high-value asset. And Derek was already calculating how much he could squeeze out of me before tomorrow's meeting. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus, asterisk everything okay? Really need to move forward today, asterisk. $15,000 in my hands, or in Vince's calculation of what I owed Derek's debt. The choice was about to be made for me. I looked around the kitchen, at Derek's calculating expression, Emma's betrayed face, Jenna's confusion, and felt something crystallize inside me. 8 months of manipulation had led to this moment, and I was done being anyone's victim. You know what? I said, pulling out my phone. Let me call Marcus back and accept that $15,000 contract. And then I'm calling Vince. Derek's triumphant expression faltered. What are you doing? I'm taking control. I dialed Marcus while walking toward the garage. Marcus? Sorry for the delays. I'm ready to move forward immediately. Can you expedite that first payment? Absolutely. I can have 5,000 in your account within the hour. Perfect. And Marcus? I'm going to deliver exceptional work on this project. Consider it my resignation from family drama. I ended the call and turned back to face everyone. Derek had followed me, his face red with rage. You can't just, that money could solve everything. You're right. It could solve everything. For me. I started packing my laptop bag methodically. I'm done being your emergency fund, Derek. Done being threatened in my own home. Done watching you destroy everyone around you. Where are you going? Jenna asked, appearing in the doorway. Hotel tonight. My own apartment by next week. I make enough money to afford it, apparently. Emma pushed past Derek. You can't leave us with Vince. What about tomorrow's meeting? What about it? Derek borrowed that money, not me. Despite what Vince thinks, I don't owe his debts. But he knows where you work now, Derek said desperately. He won't just let you walk away. I pulled out my phone and dialed the number Vince had texted from. Everyone froze as it rang. Vince? This is the software developer from Derek's house. I wanted to clarify something before tomorrow's meeting. I'm listening, kid. I don't live there anymore. Effective immediately. I'm moving out, ending all financial ties to Derek, and I'll be filing a police report about the threats to document everything. Derek lunged for my phone, but I stepped back. Interesting, Vince said thoughtfully. And Derek's debt? Is Derek's debt? I was never a cosigner, never a guarantor. Just a tenant who's now finding other accommodations. Kids got balls, Vince chuckled. Fine. You're out of it. But Derek still owes $13,000 by Friday. Understood. Good luck collecting. I ended the call to find everyone staring at me in shock. That's it? Emma whispered. You're just abandoning us. I'm saving myself from drowning with a ship I didn't help sink. I shouldered my laptop bag. Jenna, I love you, but your husband made his choices. I'm making mine. Derek blocked my path one last time. You selfish piece of. Move, Derek. Or I call the police about the assault earlier. Something in my voice must have convinced him I was serious. He stepped aside, his face a mask of rage and desperation. I walked past him, past Emma's tears, past Jenna's devastated expression, and out the front door. 3 hours later, I was in a hotel room with $5,000 pending in my account and the biggest project of my career ahead of me. My phone had 17 missed calls from Derek and 3 voicemails begging me to reconsider. I deleted them all and started coding. 6 months later, my business had tripled. Derek had fled town after defaulting to Vince. Jenna had filed for divorce and moved in with our parents. Emma had started a successful photography business, with her own laptop, bought with money from her new job. Sometimes the best thing you can do for family is refuse to enable their destruction. Even when it means walking away from people you love.